Hello, and thanks for tuning in to a review of what's new in 2017. I'm Nikki Schmith, current president of AHS, and I'm also quite the Daylilies show enthusiast. That makes it extra special to me to be able to bring you this highlight reel of the major changes to the exhibition's handbook. You see the new cover of the book here. These changes are effective January 1st of 2017. Overall, the book got a major overhaul of structure. Many color photos were added, many new illustrations and exhibits were added as well. These changes affect everyone involved with a show, including judges, exhibitors, hybridizers, and even show hosts. Now, you can get this manual for free. You can download it online, the membership portal. And all you need to do is, after you log in, pull down the judges menu at the top, and you see exhibition materials and forms in that submenu. Click on that, and then you see the blue arrow on the right of this screen. That shows you where the two handbook links are. Now, we've added two links there for free download. One works better if you'd like to have it printed. We have offset it so you can have it printed on 3-hole punch paper. Or the second link there is a computer version. That one will work better on your tablets, on your Kindles, on any of your iPads if you'd like to use it in that way while you're at a show instead of carrying around an actual paper copy. So it is available right now through daylilynetwork.com. It is a free download, and eventually we will get hard copy printed packets available through AHS publications. But for right now, the only way that you can get this manual is to go to the portal and download it. Now, the topics of interest that we will cover in this session today, there are, as I said, lots of changes in the new manual for 2017 for exhibition judges. But specifically in this presentation, we wanted to bring forward a few of the things that were either a large shift from the way we used to do show things, or a change in policy, or even in some cases, new policies. Some of the topics of interest that we'll cover today are shown here. We will go over some of the new judging considerations for doubles. We provide a little bit of clarification on pollen and transitory insects, as well as how to judge spiders and what some of the expectations are there. The Seedling distinction worksheet is back and has been improved even more, so you'll see that new exhibit in the manual. And finally, there were a few enhancements made to the ethics portion of our exhibition judges handbook, specifically dealing with what to do in the cases of misplaced or misnamed entries. We wanted to provide a standardized procedure for handling those things. Also want to make sure everyone is on the same page regarding disqualifying entries in an accredited show. Who has the authority to actually disqualify an entry? Who does not? And what are some of the reasons why an entry should be actually disqualified? And finally, one big point and a big change in procedure, signatures will now be required on your Best in Show ballots. So if you are on a panel that is judging Best in Show in an AHS accredited show, your signature will now be required on that ballot. So let's look at the first topic of interest for today, and that is judging considerations for doubles. For a double to be considered fully double, it must have at least 3 extra petals. That's not new news. But entries exhibiting less than 3 petals may not be disqualified, but should be assessed points from form. If it is exhibiting less than 3 petals, as you are seeing it on the show table, you may not disqualify it or mark it judged. You simply need to address that fault under form, not by completely disqualifying the entry. Secondly, on this slide regarding judging considerations for doubles, missing or deformed pistil or stamens are not penalized with doubles. And the rationale behind that is the extra petals in doubles are formed by the transformation of the pistil and or the stamens into petals. So they can't be penalized for actually doing what they're supposed to do. Keeping doubles in mind, in effect with 2017 shows. Doubles that are only registered with 50% or more doubling characteristic will be shown in Section 5 of the show. Only those cultivars that are listed on the official double and polymerase list may be entered into Section 5, regardless of their condition on the day of the show. Double and polymerase cultivars with no percentage listed in the AHS database, and there are many of those. They will continue to be listed on the official double and polymerase list, and they will continue to be allowed to be shown in Section 5. If you are a doubles exhibitor for shows, or you're a doubles hybridizer who likes to see their doubles compete in shows, know that the shift to 50% or more in their registration. So however the hybridizer registers that daylily, that establishes the benchmark for if it's going to get into Section 5 or not. Any cultivar listed on the official double and polymerase list that's not exhibiting their trait on the day of the show will be assessed points under form. It may not be disqualified. And this goes back to the initial point about who can disqualify daylily entries and who cannot. You can't simply mark an exhibit to 0 or quote judged simply because it's not exhibiting the trait that it's expected to do. Number 5 on this slide, any cultivar that's not listed on the official double and polymerase list is going to be placed in its corresponding size or form section, regardless of what doubling characteristics it might be showing on show day. So if it does not show up on the list, and that list is going to be derived from the actual registration database, and it will only show those cultivars that have the 50% or more benchmark. This rule applies to daylily shows, not how the hybridizers are registering their daylilies. This is just how we're classifying the percentage of doubling characteristics. Judges' education and exhibitions and exhibition judges' records and daylily show enthusiasts all together, they clearly agree that they want Section 5 to really represent what doubles and polymerase characteristics are meant to be. And by establishing a percentage benchmark for what flowers are allowed in that section and which ones are not, we're hoping to uphold the integrity of what hybridizer work in that form is doing. And lastly, a cultivar that's not on the official double and polymerase list that happens to be doubling or showing poly characteristics on show day is also simply assessed points under form. It's not disqualified or it's not, quote, judged just because it's doing something in the form that it's not supposed to be doing. It still has color. It still has texture and substance. It still has buds and branching, and there still is condition and grooming to assess. You simply can't disqualify it and choose not to judge it. It simply will get its faults assessed under form. We hope that clarifies some of what happens to disqualify an entry or why you should be writing judged on tags. Pollen and transitory insects will no longer be listed as a fault or penalized on any of the show exhibits. Pollen that has fallen on the petals in general transportation or shuffling as far as setting up the show goes, it's not considered a fault. Now, pollen that is smeared across the petals and it looks like it happened as the exhibitor was bringing it in from their garden or it was hastily entered, that is a fault. But several grains that have sprinkled onto petals as placement was carrying it or as clerks were twisting it, those things are not considered a fault. Take that same logic to insects. Insects that are capable of moving from one entry to another, these are not considered faults. Obviously, insects that look like they have taken up residence on the entry, a spider web that has been there 2 weeks, that's obviously considered a fault. Another one of the topics of interest we wanted to cover today was the clarification that points may no longer be deducted for spiders that appear to not meet the 4-to-1 ratio requirement. A cultivar that you approach on the show table that is registered as a spider and is placed in the corresponding spider section, it must be assumed to meet the 4-to-1 ratio requirement to have been registered as a spider. It's absolutely impossible for judges to accurately determine if a daylily meets the 4-to-1 ratio requirement as it is being displayed on show day. Your role as a judge is not to determine whether that cultivar should have been registered as a spider. You are to assume that it met the 4-to-1 ratio requirements by the hybridizer as it was registered, and you are judging it as so that day. The actual measurement of the 4-to-1 ratio requires physically handling the flower, and judges are expressly forbidden from touching an entry. So any judge deducting points or attempting to disqualify an entry for apparent nonconformity to the 4-to-1 ratio rule is subject to sanctions that have also been rolled out for exhibition judges. The next point of interest is the Seedling Distinction Worksheet. We are excited to continue to offer this worksheet in the manual and in the show chair packets, and this worksheet has been improved for this 2017 issue. What's new about this sheet is we've actually used some statistical analysis to determine some aspects of distinction, such as bud count or branching and size versus form. So the new Seedling Distinction Worksheet actually offers a suggested scale of points for these categories as well. This just goes further in judges' education, trying to help judges hone their eye for what might be distinct in our community. The sheet further emphasizes the characteristics of skate balance or grace or beauty and charm. It also allows points for a wow factor. Sometimes you can't describe why a daylily sings to you, and we refer to that as the wow factor. The new Seedling Distinction Worksheet also further emphasizes the definition of distinction that includes terms like better than and or different from cultivars already in commerce. Make sure you download the manual and check out the Seedling Distinction Worksheet. It is a helpful reference for judges and for hybridizers and even for collectors that tries to help you emphasize what makes a new daylily distinct. It's not meant to be used when evaluating every seedling that you might be seeing on the show table. It's meant to help you train your brain on how to think through distinction. So use it a few times, use it in your own garden, take it with you to shows, and just to allow yourself to refer to it to remind you to think about certain aspects about what might make a daylily distinct. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we did actually put some pencil to paper around ethics violations. So overall, unethical behavior by judges is now subject to actual penalties. Consequences have been defined, and they will depend on the severity of the general infraction. Now, this isn't meant to be the ethics police to handle these things. It's just trying to provide a little bit more definition around what really is not recommended, what's forbidden, and what will get consequence from the AHS. Here are a few specific points that call out unethical behavior by a judge. First, judges may not exhibit in a show in which they are judging. There's no exception to this rule. This includes jointly owned entries. A judge may also not judge when they have significant prior knowledge that may affect the outcome or even give the appearance of doing so. It's also clearly unethical for judges to be in any area of the show, and that includes classification, it includes placement, it includes the show floor, the grooming area, the staging area. Judges must also withhold all prejudices regarding form, color, hybridizers, years, historical daylilies. A judge may never express their personal prejudices about daylilies. We've discussed the issue of disqualification in this presentation. There is no situation in which a judge disqualifies an entry. Not a panel chair, not a senior judge, not a senior exhibition judge's instructor who has been doing this for 3 decades. There is no situation in which a judge disqualifies an entry. It is expressly written in the handbook that only the classification chair may disqualify an entry. Let's go over a few acceptable reasons why an entry might be disqualified. A classification chair might disqualify the entry because there is evidence of the use of artificial coloring. 2, the entry was placed in the wrong section. And you can look at page 13 in the manual, right around that area. So dealing with the misplaced entry, what happens if that situation occurs? Only the classification chair has the authority to move it or disqualify a misplaced entry. The judges panel can call attention to the classification chair. We're human, and that happens. But in the case when it does happen, and it will happen to you, only the classification chair has the authority to move it. If the entry is moved, it may still be judged if the section it's moving to has not yet been awarded a Best in Section rosette. So if you come across a cultivar that should have been an unusual form, but it's been placed in the spider section, and you look at the unusual form section, it's already been judged, a Best in Section has already been chosen, that entry may then be disqualified by the classification chair because it can only be moved to the new section if the Best in Section rosette has yet to be chosen. If it's been awarded, that entry can move over there and simply be marked judged, placed in the wrong section. That's why it's important that classification and placement get those entries right, because an otherwise gorgeous entry that is mistakenly placed could ultimately be disqualified from the show by the classification chair. Under 0 circumstances may a section be reopened to judge a misplaced entry. You cannot go back and start over because one entry was not judged with the rest of them. If the Best in Section rosette has been chosen, you cannot reopen that section and consider that previously misplaced entry. Another acceptable reason why an entry may be disqualified by the classification chair. The entry is misnamed. How to deal with a misnamed entry. Only the classification chair has the authority to move it or disqualify a misnamed entry. If the name can be correctly determined, the entry can still be judged if the section it's moving to has not yet been awarded the Best in Section rosette. So not only might the cultivar have the wrong name, the result of its wrong name might have caused it to be misplaced. So again, the classification chair is under no obligation to determine the correct name. It can either be disqualified or it can be moved to the correct section that it belongs in. If that Best in Section has already been awarded in the section where it was going to move to, then the entry is marked judged. Incorrect name on entry tag. And finally, under no circumstances may a section be reopened to judge a misnamed entry. This is the same as it applies to misplaced entries. If the Best in Section has already been awarded, then you may not reopen that section to rejudge the misnamed entry. Back to the summary slide of the acceptable reasons for an entry may be disqualified by the classification chair. The last 2 items here are new. Number 4, the entry is severely damaged Or number 5, the entry is not a seedling and is not in the AHS database yet. To deal with a cultivar that's not in the AHS database yet, if the information is not yet published, it must be placed in Section 10, which is for seedlings. And this provision is provided only for newly registered daylilies that have not yet had their information published in the AHS database. As you know, the timing for when a cultivar is registered and when our official publication is published, making those registrations, quote, official, that is where those daylilies need to be exhibited, is in Section 10 for seedlings. This provision does not apply to misnamed or unknown cultivars, only those cultivars that have yet to appear in the AHS database. So if you come upon that, a new entry tag must be filled out. The word seedling must be placed under the cultivar name. It must only be shown in Section 10. And as per usual, no identifying remarks may remain in the area, such as garden name or hybridizer or any other identifying remarks. So also, a qualified entry that's not yet listed in the AHS database can also be entered by the hybridizer in Section 11 to win an achievement award. And that is the award where you show 3 scapes of the same seedling, and you use the labeling procedure that I described above, but that is Section 11 in the show. Those entries will be judged by the standards set forth for judging seedlings. So we do have a separate seedling scale of points, and that is used to evaluate both Section 10 and Section 11. And the last acceptable reason why an entry may be disqualified by the classification chair is that the entry was not entered by its owner. Entries may not be entered by anyone not living at the same physical address as the owner and grower of the daylily. And for show purposes, all parties at the same physical address are considered to be owners, and they could submit any entries for any one family member or partner that happens to live at that same address. One more item that we want to cover as an acceptable reason for an entry being disqualified by the classification chair is that the entry turns out to be the second entry per named class in a household. And the rule states that only one entry per named class is allowed per household. So if it is discovered as the entries are being evaluated, a classification chair might ultimately choose to disqualify an entry. Now, obviously, that does not apply to seedlings because each seedling is an individual named class. In your show schedule, you'll also see that there is now a short form to complete for the validation of the requirement for senior exhibition judges to exhibit in an accredited show. Lastly, judges must now sign their best in show ballots, and these ballots are still confidential. They're still only handled by tabulation and the show chair. They are still returned to the exhibitions committee with the final report, but we are now requiring judges to sign their best in show ballots. So we are asking the judges to take accountability for their ballots, sign those best in show ballots, and allow tabulation and best in show to be able to reach to you directly if they have questions. Also, as a response to feedback, an additional tiebreaker for best in show tabulation has also been provided, and the procedure for determining the outcome if entries remain tied even after that has also been added. Shows are getting very competitive, and so sometimes they're coming down to fractions of points. So we've just given you a few extra ways to determine tiebreakers if that situation arises. Thank you so much for your time and attention in today's class. Just reviewing the topics of interest, I look at this slide and I see we've gone over a lot in this section. And I hope that these changes, although again, they are not all encompassing of all of the changes, I encourage you to download the manual, look at the color photos, look at the new illustrations, look at the new inserted exhibits that are in there. A lot of things are not new, but they have been reinterpreted or reworded or clarified. So we hope that that handles a lot of the questions that have come up or changes in our culture that have happened since the last time this manual has been updated. So these are the basic things we covered today. I hope that you will visit the membership portal. You'll visit Judges and pull down that menu and find exhibition materials and download this manual. That is a review of what's new for 2017 for exhibition judges. Again, it's been a pleasure to provide you with these updates. I hope you find them helpful. And if you have any questions regarding these changes or this new manual, you can email me at president@daylilies.org, or you can also email judgeseducation@daylilies.org. Thanks again for your time, for your attention, and for your dedication to AHS exhibition shows. I hope to see you at a show this year. Happy 2017, everyone. Thanks again.